our friend, colleague, and partner, Timur Talui. Timur is the CEO of ProTax Pro Software and FileYourTaxes.com. And he's going to go over some breaking news about where is your money, where is your payment. Timur, how's it going?
Pretty good, Tony. How are you?
Good, man. I decided to come outside, catch some sun, staying away from others, so trying to be safe. But
where's your mask?
Yeah, man. Right here, look. I should put it on, huh?
Yeah.
The mask.
Well, crazy times, Tony.
There you go. Indeed, yeah. And even after maybe the shelter in place goes away, I think people are still gonna act. It's not gonna go back to normal, I think, right? No, it's not right away. Probably a lot of caution is gonna take place. So we'll see.
It's not normal. A lot of people are still waiting for their $1,200.
Oh yeah. So I've heard rumors that I saw the stats today. I'm sure you're gonna cover them. Over 88 million payments have been issued. Over 158 billion dollars. I think.
Crazy?
Yeah. I wonder if that's enough to pump into the economy. I don't know.
Well, you said 88 million payments. Even if a couple of them went the wrong way, that's a lot of payments. So we'll talk about how people can find where their payment is and register and get going. So one of the things that we're going to do is talk about the Get My Payment application at IRS. And the thing too is, if you ever want to see this again, I think you can see it again at the Latino Tax Pro Facebook page or the ProTax Pro /EIP. You can just type that in, ProTax Pro /EIP, and you can get a copy of this presentation and reach out to us for more information. So if anybody has any questions, protaxpro.com /EIP or Latino Tax Pro, I think you can get it out too. So this is just a pretty chart that I made. It shows that distribution by state, Tony. So of that $100 billion and 88 million payments, that's by dollar what state got. And I'm colorblind, so this chart doesn't really help me. I just think it's pretty. I made it on Excel. But it shows kind of pretty distribution of states. I mean, you see a lot of money went to a lot of states. So.
And then just for those people that are wondering, it's not that certain states got more money. It's just based on taxpayers, right? Where they're
how many people are in each state? Yeah. Because obviously California has more. California, New York have more people than South Dakota, sir. So they got fewer payments in South Dakota. But
that makes sense.
And a lot of people want information about how to get their payments or where their payment status is. And one of the challenges is everybody's got limited phone support, and even the IRS has fewer people answering the phones right now because of the coronavirus and the stay-at-home orders. I know a lot of the tax software companies have limited service hours, and honestly, when you call your tax software company or call your tax repair, we don't know much. As tax repairers, the IRS doesn't give us information about where the payments are. Did you get any information, Tony, from your customers?
Yeah, and people call. They'll call the office. They're wondering where their money's at. All we could do is go to that portal on IRS.gov that basically gives us as much as we know. A lot of it is accurate. Most of it is accurate. I know sometimes, and you're probably going to bring it up, the issues with those that did one of those bank products, people didn't see their account numbers on there. But we're just trying to communicate as much as possible to let the people know, hey, the money's on the way.
Yeah, the point is don't call. Go online. And the best resource is irs.gov/coronavirus. And one of the things on each slide, I tried to put the source of the slide so you can see kind of where I got the information. And you'll see that every slide is information from irs.gov. So it's really, truly your best resource to see what's going on and get information about the coronavirus payments. And so this is just a little bit, how do you get an impact payment, an economic impact payment? Some people call it stimulus. The IRS is calling it a stimulus an economic impact payment. And you'll get it automatically. Most people just get it automatically. Like you said, Tony, if you file a 2018 or 2019 tax return, and then now if you're a Social Security recipient with SSDI, survivor benefits, SSI, or railroad retirement benefits, then the IRS actually pulled all that information from Social Security and the Railroad Retirement Board, so they'll automatically send out payments. So if you get one of those a tax refund in 2018, a tax refund in 19, or you filed your return in 2018 or filed your return in 2019, or you have Social Security or retirement benefits, you don't need to do anything. And then the only exception is if you are on Social Security and you don't file a tax return, meaning you're not going to file a 2018 or 2019 tax return, and you have children under 17, you want to let the IRS know. We'll talk about that later.
Nice.
So if you don't file a 2018 return, you don't file a 2019 return, you don't have Social Security or Railroad Retirement, there is a tool at the IRS.gov website called Non-Filers Enter Your Payment Here, and you'll need to go to that website and submit your information. And you know, Tony, we're talking to a lot of tax preparers, and tax preparers are saying, "Well, how do I do that?" I think almost all tax softwares will let you as a tax preparer file that same return. The Non-Filer Enter Payment Here tool will do, and just like we did in 2009 with the financial crisis back then, the software is coded so that normally if there's no income in a return or no taxable income in a return, the IRS won't process it. So what they've done is they've changed the system. So if there's a return with no taxable income, you put $1 of interest on that tax return, which causes $1 of total income, which causes $1 of adjusted gross income, and then the IRS will process it. And the IRS put out a revenue procedure. We've had a lot of questions on our phone lines at ProTax Pro about why can they do that? How can they put $1 when they didn't have $1 of interest? And as a taxpayer, going to get audited because they said $1 of interest. And no, it's all legitimate. It's the guidance the IRS gave us, and that's Revenue Procedure 2020-28. That's a mouthful. And there's a link to it down at the bottom. Again, I tried to source all my information for you. But it's really important if you do file a tax return, if you have a 2019 tax return, don't use the non-filer enter payment here. Because when you use the non-filer enter payment here, it files a $1 tax return. So then if you do need to file a tax return, but you use the non-filer tool, how do you change a tax return, Tony?
Yeah, that's true. That's gonna be.
You got to amend it.
It's gonna be hard.
You got to amend it, right? And so, unless the IRS comes up with a different process, you'd have to amend that $1 income return with the new return, file that amendment on paper, wait for it to process, and they won't offer a direct deposit in paper. So if you're supposed to get a refund on your return and you use the non-filer tool, you're going to have to wait a long time for that refund because that refund is going to come on paper, and it's going to have to be processed on paper. And you know, the IRS has said that because of the coronavirus, they're not processing paper returns right now. So it's really important as tax preparers, we let our customers know, we know you want your economic impact payment, but don't go to that non-filer enter payment here tool if you are not a non-filer. It's a mouthful, but.
Yes, is it because the IRS has, like, say you have a W-2, the IRS has that information, right? So they expect you to file a tax return.
Right.
And if you use a non-filer tool, it's going to throw everything off.
Right, and then you have to amend that return because the non-filer actually files a tax return per that revenue procedure. So
got it.
Here's the people that should use the non-filer enter payment here. Right, this is straight off the IRS website that says you have to be a U.S. citizen, you get a gross income that doesn't exceed the standard deduction. Because if your income is below the standard deduction, a lot of times you don't have to file a tax return. And then you didn't file a tax return in 2018 or 19, or you're not required to. So just because you didn't file a tax return doesn't mean you can use it, even if you're supposed to file a tax return. You're still supposed to file that tax return. And again, I'm reiterating, it's really important that we all understand the non-filer in a payment here files a tax return that has $1 of interest, $1 of income, $1 of adjusted gross income, even though that taxpayer doesn't have any total income. And the IRS allows that, but it's important that we don't do it if they do have to file a 2019 return. That's why I put that in capital letters. And again, there's a link down to the IRS website that talks all through these scenarios.
Got it. And that's amazing that because of time, right? This was the best solution. Instead of, it would have taken time to reprogram the software to allow a $0 tax return to come in, but the IRS gave guidance, and it just speaks to how the public and private industries is working together to say, hey, just do $1, $1, send it in, let's get the people their money instead of reprogramming all the systems.
Yeah, because you want to get all the information electronically and use direct deposit and use all the things that we've invested in to get people money there as quickly as possible. E-file and direct deposit is always the fastest way to your refund. And to talk about the fastest way to your economic impact payment, e-file and direct deposit, again, it's got to be the fastest way possible. So
Nice.
A lot of people want to know how they can check the status of their payment. Again, IRS.gov, it's really convenient. There's a Get My Payment link right on the top. And there's a tool out there, Tony, you talked about a second ago. You type the information in, and most of the time it gives you the right information. And it's pretty clear, it explains what's going on. IRS is constantly improving it. They're fixing it. They're finding little areas where one person had a problem, two people had a problem, so they're fixing it so that other people don't run into that same issue. And here it is. So for people that maybe filed a 2018 return or already filed their 2019 return, but didn't give their direct deposit information, like they owed money or they elected to get a check, the Get My Payment tool will allow you to actually enter your bank information. So this is a screenshot of one of my friends who filed a return in 2018 but hasn't filed her 2019 return. And she got a paper check, or I think she owed money in 2018, I forget. And so here it's asking her to put in her bank information. So for taxpayers that are eligible, and the IRS doesn't have direct deposit information, that Get My Payment tool is how you get your information to them if you file a tax return. So we talked about if you don't file a tax return, use the non-filer tool. If you do file a tax return, you use the Get My Payment tool. So it's important.
So this is for people, this is for people that do file a tax return. Maybe they did not do direct deposit. They got a check in the mail. They don't have a direct deposit info. They go in here after they input their information, then they get this screen that says, hey, we know who you are. We have your data except your bank information. Please provide that.
Yeah. And so that's really good. IRS was really good about getting this out quickly. And it worked, like you said, Tony, it worked for most of the people, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
that's a great job that they're doing.
Yeah. And so here's the trouble, though. A lot of people got this message. And what does this message mean? Status not available. So the IRS website has some FAQs, and here they are. It could be that you're required to file a tax return, but the IRS hasn't processed it yet. So there's a delay between when the IRS gets your return. Just like where's my refund? When you file your return, you go to where's my refund. Sometimes it takes a couple days for where's my refund to update. Same thing here. They get the return in, it's got to process, make it through their systems. That's what that is. That's there. Or some IRS says that not everybody's information has been uploaded to Get My Payment. So there's some people that IRS is still pushing that information up to. Maybe folks that they didn't know were getting a payment, some of the Social Security recipients that they're getting information from Social Security. I don't know who those are, but that's what the IRS says, is that they've got some people out there. If you don't normally file a tax return, but you did use that non-filer payment here, like I said, it goes through the e-file system. So there's that same delay that could happen on the regular e-file of a 2019 return. And IRS says that if you have an SSA or RB 1099 or VA benefits, your information hasn't been loaded yet. So a lot of the folks that are non-filers that IRS is getting the information from Social Security or Veterans Administration, those folks, their data is not up there yet. Or maybe you're lucky enough to make too much money, because if you make more than $99,000 in a year, you don't get the economic impact payment. So if you're lucky enough to make over $99,000 in a year, you'll get this message too. So one of those three things that you're required to file a return, but it hasn't been processed yet, or your data's not there. or you don't normally file a tax return, your VA is not processed, or they haven't uploaded it from Social Security yet, or you make too much money.
Got it. Yeah, because that was one of the questions we got right now. We're live on Facebook, so the comments are coming in about VA benefits. So that's coming soon, the VA benefits for veterans. And then that's interesting. If you are not eligible, it doesn't necessarily tell you, hey, you made too much money. It just says your payment status is not available.
Yeah, and for anybody that's a Social Security, Railroad Retirement Benefit, or VA benefit, and they don't file a tax return, meaning their adjusted gross income is less than the standard deduction, right? Because Social Security is not always taxable. If you get Social Security or VA benefits or railroad benefits, for some people it's taxable, some people it's not. So a lot of people who get Social Security just don't file tax returns because none of it's taxable. It doesn't hurt to use the non-filer tool, but IRS has said they're going to get that information from Social Security and Railroad Retirement Board, so you don't have to. But there's no reason, like if you use the non-filer tool, it might put you in the front of the line, or it might, but it's not going to hurt you in that process. So yeah, this was one of the screens. Like when I was looking at Facebook last week, I saw people saying, "Hey, what does this mean? Why does it say return? That's not available." And so IRS did a good job. They gave us, these 5 reasons why it could be. And if anybody has questions, pipe them into Facebook. Tony will read them off to me, and we'll get it answered.
Yes. So we're getting a few. So keep the questions coming. We'll answer them here at the end.
So now here's the big question, and this is the big news that came out last week, or this week actually. If they had your 2018 tax return and you haven't filed a 2019 yet, you might have changed your bank. Or some people get their refund loaded onto a debit card or a prepaid card, and when that prepaid card's done, they throw it away. Or they close that account. And so what happens if you had your money and the IRS deposited it to an account that doesn't exist or is closed? Well, fortunately, they thought about this. And this actually happens with tax refunds. Sometimes you just type your account number wrong on your 1040 and the refund goes, and it goes to the wrong account, or it goes to an account that doesn't exist, or you just carried over your information from last year, but you forgot that you changed banks, and so the IRS sends the refund to the wrong account. So everything I'm hearing and the information on this frequently asked questions is the same thing. The bank, when they get the money, they send it back to the IRS. Right? Because the bank says,
got it.
I don't know this Tony Martinez guy. I used to know him, but I don't know him anymore. And I don't have an account for him. So I don't want to have the money. I'm going to send it back to the IRS. And so what IRS says is if they get the money back from the bank, they will send it out as a paper check.
Do the banks, like say I have Chase Bank, do they, and then I input my ACH, my routing, or not the routing, but I guess the account, it goes to somebody else's name. It goes to, so maybe the account does exist at Chase under a different name. Do the banks know that, or would there be an instance where my money goes into like Jenny's account or something just because then they never matched the name, but they did match the number? I'm curious.
So,
I don't know if you know that.
I don't know the answer to that. I know I've heard of stories where the banks will send the money back to the IRS when the names don't match.
Okay.
Right? Because, if you ever look at your bank statement, it says U.S. Treasury tax refund. Mine says Timur Talui. Yours says Tony Martinez. Right. So the names in the deposit, and so the banks usually check the name and the account number and everything to make sure it matches. Okay. And if it doesn't match, they'll send it back again. Send it back. Paper check comes out of the IRS.
Yeah, because the banks, that's I guess the safest thing to do. Like, I don't know who this is. I don't. This is not my money. Here, and then the IRS
That's the
says,
banking regulations mostly. If the account's closed, the account's closed, right? Just like if you got your payroll deposited to a closed account, or you went to the ATM with a closed ATM card, it wouldn't give you your money. So I mean it is what it is.
That makes sense.
But yeah, IRS has said in their frequently asked questions here, they're not going to let you go back to that get my payment tool, right? You can't change your bank information. It's going to go as a paper check,
Yes,
right?
yes, that's good to know.
And then so this is another frequently asked question at IRS. And this was one of the ones that came out this week too. A lot of tax preparers, they take their prep fees out of the refund and they use a refund settlement product, right? So, with one of the banks that we all work with. And so the IRS sent a lot of economic impact payments to those banks, to the accounts where the fees were taken out of, and all of those banks tried to get that money where it needed to go. A lot of people, actually the majority of the people, what's interesting is got their money directly from the IRS, even if they used a bank product. That happened to most people. But there's some people
really?
that the IRS wasn't able to route it around and it landed at the bank. So what happens? The bank sent a lot of them back, right? I think some banks printed out checks, some loaded them onto cards that were existing. The bank followed whatever rules it had to do that. So if you read the IRS FAQ here, some of them were directed to the bank account associated with a refund product. Most of them were not. Most of them went straight to the taxpayer. If the settlement product is closed, the bank sends it back. Boom, easy, right? And the Get My Payment app, they say, is going to update to show that. But the way I understand it is if you look at the previous FAQ, it says rejected payments will go as paper checks. It'll go back as a paper check. So all of those folks should get their money. This comes a paper check. And so IRS goes on to say, once the payment's processed, it'll automatically be mailed to the address. So again, the IRS is saying the same thing as before. Bank sends the money back to the IRS. IRS turns that around to ship it out via mail.
Got it. To the address on file on the tax return, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And then it says that there was a message saying it was going to go back to that same account again, but they fixed that. So like I remember I told you in the beginning, the IRS stood this thing up and it worked great. It had a few little glitches in it. One of them was it said that when the bank money came back, it said it was going to go right back to that same account. So they've updated that and fixed it. So a lot of folks saw that messaging and they were afraid that the IRS was going to keep trying to send that money to that closed account. But it's not what's happening. Like they said here on this slide and the previous frequently asked question, that they're going to actually put it into a paper check and mail it.
Got it. Because when somebody uses one of those bank products, I guess that's the term, that what it does, the software creates a temporary bank account, right, where the refund comes in. But once the refund is distributed, either the bank does. Sorry, so the bank does. So when the refund, the money is distributed, either debit card or printed check, then that account goes away. It doesn't exist anymore. Is that how it works, Cameron? Do you know?
So I mean, it's kind of how it works, and I don't want to talk for the banks because I know they have all their rules and laws they have to follow. But those accounts will take a federal refund. I know those accounts take state refunds sometimes. So I think they stay open for a little while. Maybe if you had one in 2018, it may not be open anymore because 2018's done. But probably a lot of the 2019 people, they still are. Sometimes the IRS will pay a partial refund and they'll send the rest of it. So I know that bank account's there because they want to get that. They want to make sure the taxpayers get the money as quickly as possible. So I know a lot of times that account's there. But like I said, the majority of the refunds that IRS sent to people that use bank products, I think went around the bank product and went directly to the taxpayer. There's just a few of them that actually went into the bank. And like I said, they either got sent back to the bank or the bank processed them through the processing that they had, like you said, a debit card or a check or anything like that.
Got it. No, that's good to know. And it's very interesting. I mean, I think all of us saw on social media those taxpayers that were confronting their tax professionals saying, "You stole my money." And it's like, why is that the first thing you assume, right? I mean, I wonder what the relationship is between the tax pro and the taxpayer. But it's interesting. But it's all just misinformation at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the tax pro should never be getting a refund, right? I mean, we all know tax preparers should never be getting a taxpayer's refund. They should leave it up to one of the banks to the fee netting, or use the Form 8888 to split the refund out to the taxpayer's bank accounts if they want to put some in savings and put some in their checking account, or let the taxpayer get direct deposit or a check. The preparer should never touch a taxpayer's refund. That's against the rules. And again, if anybody has any questions, we have that was a presentation, so happy to answer them. Or if you're watching this later and you want to go to the protaxpro.com/EIP and ask a question, we'll be happy to answer it. Or I'm sure that Latino Tax Pro, you guys have your Facebook page there, and you're happy to answer it too. And hey Tony, what's cool is on Monday you're doing a webinar with me and Carlos Lopez, and we're gonna have like a little question and answer where Carlos and I are going to talk about things like, the IRS says that overall tax return volume across the United States is down almost 20%. So 1 out of 5 of every tax preparer's customer hasn't come in yet. So that means if you do 100 tax returns, 20 of them haven't come in. So I was worried that my business was down. But then I looked at the data from the IRS, and it looks like it's not. I'm just waiting for my customers to come in. And there's a bunch of scammers out there right now trying to trick tax preparers using, if you're trying to go to my PC or screen share, there's a lot of scammers, trying to mess with that. So Carlos and I are going to talk about a bunch of neat stuff like that and how tax preparers can invest in their business and be successful in spite of all this unprecedented time with COVID, with coronavirus.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. So everyone that's listening in, we're live on your channel, Pro Tax Pro's Facebook, on Latino Tax Pro, on my page and my profile. But let us know if you want a special invitation to Mondays afternoon, the fireside chat between our executive director, Carlos Lopez, and CEO of Pro Tax Pro, Timur Talui. He's going to come back, but that's going to be a good one on Monday because a lot of people are worried. Hey, I'm down 20, 30%. Is it just me? But like you just said right now, no, the industry as a whole is down. The IRS still is waiting for you said down about 20% of those tax returns. You think, Timur, people are just waiting, they're sheltering in place, they have no rush to complete the returns? Is that what it is, maybe?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you use a tax preparer, you might not want to leave your house to go to your tax preparer's office right now. A lot of people might be concerned. Their tax preparer might be closed. Our software, the Pro Tax Pro software, lets you upload your documents securely to your tax preparer so you can be at home, send all your documents to your tax preparer. But not every software is internet aware like that. So, I mean, not every tax office has the ability to upload tax documents to your preparer, so the preparer can process them and then re-download them back to your customer. They don't have the portals that we do. And I just say we have the protaxpro.com/Q&A, Q-A-N-D-A. If you go to that, you can actually register for the webinar. Tony, where's your registration sign up?
It's on our website. Yeah, it's latinotaxpro.com, and you'll see it there on the homepage. Yeah, so you could be able to register. But we'll send everyone a text. Let us know if you got a text. We sent a text earlier this afternoon. It's something we're still going to start doing. So definitely be aware of that. But there's some questions here, Timur, that are coming in. The first question is, if you've been a victim of identity theft and you have to use an IP PIN to file taxes, are you still going to receive the economic payments?
As far as I know, yeah. If you filed a tax return and put your IP PIN on it, then the IRS is going to use that 2018 and 2019 information to send you your tax refund. There may be some restrictions on that Get My Payment tool, where you can't add a different direct deposit number. But if you filed a 2019 tax return and gave them direct deposit information for a refund, then you should be able to get it. The trick though, Tony, is if you gave them direct deposit information for a payment, so direct debit, it doesn't count. You have to have given them direct deposit information for a refund.
For the refund. Okay.
I think a couple weeks ago, almost all the tax softwares changed. So even if you are preparing a return for someone that owes money, you'll still see the routing and account number on the 1040 for direct deposit, even though there's no refund. That's because the IRS explained to us that in order to register folks that have a balance due that pay electronically for the economic impact payment to have it electronic, you have to put it on there. So I think you'll start seeing that now. You're gonna print out 1040s, but there is direct deposit information, even though they owe money. So.
Got it. Thank you for that. Another question: if they filed their 2019 tax return, but when they check the payment, where's my money? Where's my economic payment status? It shows in process. Seems like the bank information is fine. Could they still get their check? I guess the better question here, Timber, is the IRS done sending out payments, or are they still sending out some electronic direct deposit payments and then the checks?
No, I think they said there's about 150 million people that are getting payments. And I think that you said they only sent out 88 million, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more to go. And, you know, the paper check printing takes time and people. So they can only print so many checks a week. So
okay,
if you're in process, I think that means you're in process, right? They've sent the money or they've asked the federal government, because the IRS doesn't print the checks, the Bureau of Fiscal Service does. So they've asked the Bureau of Fiscal Service to print that check or make that payment. So then that's going on. So once it's in process, you can't update your routing and account number if you get my payment. You can only just wait for it to come, whatever process the IRS has you on there.
Perfect. Another question here: is it true that small business owners with Schedule C will not get the stimulus payments? That it's only going to individuals? No. If you're a Schedule C, you're also an individual, right?
Yeah. As long as your income is under that $99,000, you should get it, right? Because once you hit $75,000, it starts dropping off. So if you've got a really successful business, you're making $100,000 a year, after your expenses, you're not going to get it. But for most people that are under that $99,000, they'll be getting it, even if they have a small business.
Got it. And last question here: how come when I go to where's my payment tool, it is showing for some taxpayers that they don't have enough information to determine the taxpayer eligibility, and if they're good with the income threshold? I think you discussed that earlier, right?
Yeah, that's the same thing. The status is unavailable. We don't know exactly why their data may not have made it into the Get My Payment tool yet or not. The IRS hasn't told us. Or, maybe that return's still processing. Sometimes people's tax returns, they might have to send a letter to the taxpayer and ask for more information. If there's a dependent claim someplace else, or there's a risk of identity theft. Sometimes the IRS, as a tax preparer, sometimes your clients will get a letter from the IRS saying, hey, we want to process this return, but we need more information. And so if your return is in that state where you filed it, but they need more information, based on that FAQ, it sounds like that data is not going to be loaded yet, so they may not know it. They may not be able to show it to you.
Got it, Timber. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Timber, CEO of FileYourTaxes.com and ProTax Pro Professional Software. We can't wait till Monday to get some more breaking news and all the stats. And I want to thank everyone that's been listening. If you want to be invited to the Monday webinar, leave a comment on the Facebook page or send us a quick text, and we'll send you that special link. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Timber, and have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too, Tony. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today.
Awesome. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.